That's always awesome, Like I'll be talking for a long time and then all of a sudden, bam. Hey, guess what? You're muted. I said, hello, hello, hello. Welcome. My name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. Aquarius, yah. Long time no see. How you been? I know you've been in the chats, but you've been kind of silent. Rondi. Two of my biggest fans. I'm always happy to see you guys. Hopefully we get some more people up in here. There's people around these streets and they just got to find their way back to the cool bar, So we'll wait a little bit. If you haven't heard of this case, it's out of Ohio. And it's a very disturbing case. It's kind of older, but it's interesting nonetheless. And they tore his house down also because, it was such an eyesore that they had to tear it down. You know how people are always saying, well, they never tear down other places or they never tear down other crime scenes. Yeah, they do. And you're going to know why, because this crime scene was atrocious. It was atrocious in every aspect of the word. This individual was every bit evil. So let's get going. Maybe Leslie and Billy. Hello. Warning label Nina. How's it going? Glad you're here also. Glad you're here. And thank you so much for being on the panel last night. It means a lot. This is where all the cool kids hang out after hours. So put the women and children to bed and let's go have some fun. Isn't that how it usually goes? Let's go have some fun. I choose to go on a little later because of these cases. They're not as primetime friendly. Sometimes people want to come and hang out later on once they've made their made their round through the YouTube streets, and I understand all that. Let me get this correctly here. All right, let's go. So one of them escaped out the second floor window, landing on the ground naked. I mean, when you're trying to survive, you'll do just about anything to make sure that happens, even if you don't have any clothes on. I mean, this guy was a monster for reals. He should have been one of the most evil for reals.
Are you with her right now? I'm right here.
Ohio. I don't know the year. It looks like '09 right there, 10/21/09, and his name is Anthony Sewell. Yeah, he had one of them behind a wall. He was keeping some of them for trophies, I think.
I ordered.
I like to go on Google Maps and I like to type in the address. This house was on Google Maps for a long time, but I don't think it is now. It's like 12280 Imperial Drive. It's a small neighborhood. I think it's in Cleveland, maybe? Yeah, it's in Cleveland, Ohio, because it said the Cleveland Stranglers neighborhood. So it's in Cleveland. Yeah, so y'all look that up, 12205 Imperial Drive in Cleveland, Ohio, and you'll see the house, what it used to be like, if it's still there. But imagine that. You have people that went to the corner store, bought some beers, and then came to your house to party. And like he said, some of them never left. Can y'all see me? Can y'all see me? To copyright it. So I'm looking for another one that we can watch. This is a good story, though. I mean, it sucks that YouTube does this to you. Can y'all see me? Maybe this one will work. Let me know if y'all can see me. Y'all can hear me? All right, good deal. Thank you for staying. I'm going to try this one. Maybe this one will work. Here we go. If not, I'm just going to narrate it myself because I've watched this multiple times.
Hey, you, and well, of horrors. We say it a lot. Really mean it, though. It was on the 29th of October, 2009, that the police entered the house that once stood there. Pretty fitting Pretty fitting they did it then, because what they found inside was quite scary. Get me fresh underwear. That kind of scary. The neighbors of that house and others living on the avenue had been complaining about it for years. Complaining because there was a foul odor coming from that house. Eventually, 11 women who disappeared would be found inside that house. And I'm talking, they were found in the garden, in the basement, inside the wall.
Okay, so 11 women went missing at that house. And that is something that is hard to really fathom. I mean, this individual was very, very violent. Very violent individual. Wow, I stopped this guy at a weird thing. Let me speed it up. That way it doesn't copyright.
All murdered by...
And questions for authorities here. There were 6 bodies found in this house last week. This morning, we know there are more.
We discovered 4 additional, what we believe to be 4 bodies. It appears that this man had a insatiable appetite that he had to fill.
All murdered by a man who lived amongst them. That man being Anthony Sowell. You know, he was known as the nice, courteous, friendly tone to neighbors, but later he would be known as the Cleveland Strangler, if you can believe that. Now let's go back. Anthony Sowell was born in 1959, raised in East Cleveland, where he will live again later. His upbringing was not good. He grew up in a big house on Page Avenue, and that was just another one of those house of horrors, so he was used to them. If you're looking to see, why people are kind of the way that they are, right? In Sowell's case, you just say, point, look at that. He grew up with cousins, nieces, nephews, mother, and grandmother. His mother and his grandmother would abuse the kids, stripping them and beating them till they bled while the other children watched. Sexual assault between the 10 children in the house was an everyday occurrence. When he was 19 years old...
Isn't that interesting that he killed 11 and there was 10 kids that got sexually assaulted? I don't know if that has any correlation, but, that just... this case is bad.
He escaped. He joined the Marine Corps, where he would remain for 7 years, being based in North Carolina, California, and Okinawa, Japan. In the Marines, he seemed to... he fit in like a glove. It turns out that growing up with in a strict and abusive household it came in handy for him there anyway. He was said to have performed exceptionally well there in the Marines and garnered numerous awards. But, when he left the Marines in the mid-80s, honorably discharged, things went downhill.
Y'all ever noticed that a lot of these serial killers have had military experience? Not all of them, but there's a lot of them that have had military experience. I've watched at least 3 today that all of them were enlisted in the military.
Or his life became an uphill struggle, whichever way you want to do it. He needed that structure, discipline. Otherwise, idle hands, something. He would be and up to no good. The drink and the drugs took hold of the man. He returned to East Cleveland, unemployed, addicted, and angry. This would culminate in 1989 with a pregnant woman ending up in Anthony's house, where he tied her up, gagged her, and attacked her. Anthony was then arrested for rape and kidnapping, right? But by that stage, 3 women who lived on the same street as Anthony, 3 women had been found murdered, and those cases are still unsolved to this day. Anthony Sowell pled guilty to the charges, and in September 1990, he was sentenced to 5 to 15 years in prison. He would be evaluated by psychologists a number of times. You gonna do it again? Not at all. Anthony, by all accounts, was a very charming, likable guy. The worst traits for a predator to have. He was classed in the lowest tier of sex offenders, so he wouldn't have to, knock on doors, and he could slip in a little easier into the wider community.
And that's another trait that if you've watched any of these shows or you've paid attention to how people describe killers, able to fit in, very charming, very, very cordial. They have that double life going on. They're able to, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. Let me be a helpful person. But behind the scenes, they have this very dark secret.
During his time there, he repeatedly applied for and was denied parole. He wasn't let out until he served the whole thing, which was in the year 2005. That same year, he moved into the house on Imperial Avenue. A house which, not long after, he moved in, the woman who lived right smack dab across the road, she started complaining to City Hall about the smell. A smell which she said was either gas or something dead.
I would go with something dead for 500.
Anthony worked at a rubber factory for a time, got on grand there, no complaints. As usual, no complaints until there were police ones, and a number of women started disappearing in East Cleveland. Anthony got into a relationship with a woman named Lori, and this in turn spiraled him into a crack addiction. By all accounts, Anthony was mad about her until, in 2007, Anthony lost his job at the rubber factory, and Lori wanted to get away from drugs, so she left. Anthony wasn't feeling the same. He was happy out there, and so he stayed on Imperial Avenue. But her leaving would be a trigger for him. Like it was the straw that broke the dog's hump over the edge, or something. Shit got worse. 1 month after Lori left, never to return, Crystal Dozier vanished. Crystal was 35 years old, mother of 7 kids, but after one of her children sadly passed away, she became addicted to drugs. One day she was there, the next she wasn't. In June 2008, Tishana Culver, 33 years old, nursing assistant, but had also struggled with drugs, she disappeared. As she came and went, she was never reported missing. 2 months later, Lashonda Long, 25 and a mother of 3, she disappeared.
Do you ever wonder when you watch these shows, when you hear these stories, when you hear these cases, what makes these men prey on women so much? I'm going to start doing women serial killers here before long because there are women serial killers. There's women on death row. I was watching one today. There's like 30 or 40 women on death row in the U.S. So there's women that kill men also. But have you ever wondered what makes a man want to hurt a woman so badly? Like, what makes them not like women? And I know a lot of men that swear up and down they love women, they care for them, they cherish them, but they treat them like dirt. They treat them like crap. And it's like, well, if you loved them, why are you treating them so badly? I'm talking domestic violence and everything. It's just terrible to see.
Michelle Mason was 45 years old. She had 2 sons and was volunteering with the local AIDS task force. In October 2008, she vanished. 1 month after that, in November 2008, 52-year-old Tanya Carmichael, who had taken classes at community college, had a real estate license, she vanished. Her mother reported her missing in early December 2008, worried what could have happened to her, but, well, nothing happened. And the smell didn't get better. Anthony would say, Anthony himself, he stank of it. Right, and so when he'd go over to like his sister's house or friends' houses or was around other people just generally, they'd be like, "What the shit is that?" He would say it was a sausage store next door.
Wow, I'm not trying to laugh, but that's funny. Like, Anthony, why you smell like ass? Well, it's the sausage store across the street. Really? The sausage store across the street making you smell like butt crack? No way, sir.
That stinks like death. When inspectors from City Hall, after so many complaints, went down there to see what the crack was, they couldn't determine what it was either. So yeah, the City Hall inspectors, they said, yeah, it's probably the sausage place Ray's too. Pigs or whatever. Sausages, though delicious, shouldn't smell like that. They forced the owners of Ray's to essentially get their shit together, to remove the smell, vents, proper airflow, all that, you gotta get rid of the smell. Because I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, vents, that'll do. So they did, and the owner coughed up 30 grand to try and get rid of the smell. Nothing changed.
I'm with you on that one, PKC. Don't eat that sausage for reals.
Anthony, to fund his own addiction and fund it for his victims, he began to just wander around, becoming a scrapper. He's looking for bits of metal he could sell to get more drugs. And he would lure a number of women into his home, torturing them, horrifically assaulting them for hours and hours at a time. Sometimes they would leave, sometimes they would escape, and sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes they would, report this to police. Other times they wouldn't. But no follow-up was ever done. And a police file was never made. And nobody started, getting a map with dots and red string to try and see, oh wow, there's a lot of missing women around Imperial Avenue. Maybe we should look into that. Nah. Again, in early December 2008, a woman, for example, she ran to the police who were parked up in the neighborhood, bleeding and screaming, saying Anthony had beaten her, dragged her as she was walking by into his house, choked her and tried to rape her. Police went to the stinky house, arrested him, but as they both told, different stories, Anthony said she tried to rob him and they both had scratches and marks, the police didn't know who to believe. And so they arrested them both, later releasing them both due to insufficient evidence. And a month later, Kim Smith, who was a caretaker for her father, at age 44, she disappeared. That is in January 2009. 5 more.
So all these women disappearing in that area, funky smell coming from this house, got stories of these women escaping his house, telling these stories, but yet nobody's taking this seriously. This is a miscarriage of justice in so many ways.
More women would disappear in 2009. Nancy Cobb, Imelda Hunter, Janice Webb, Talacia Fortson, and Diane Turner all vanished without a trace. And as you'll see, time and time again, the community took notice of what was happening, and all these women disappearing in this very small area. And so they started, organizing searches, handing out flyers. Anthony helped, which all but takes us up to October 2009, when a woman named Sean Morris, she popped into Anthony's. Obviously, she did not mind the smell, and she just hung out with him. They had a few drinks together, had a little bit of drugs, shot the shit. Nothing sexual happened at all. Just ended up talking all night long. The next morning, she went to leave, and she realized her ID. She had left it upstairs. So as she was walking up the stairs, she heard from behind her, click. He ran up after her, attacked her out of nowhere. He then sexually assaulted her, and after that he went through the house, locking doors and windows. He wasn't planning on letting her go anytime soon. But at this point, she saw her moment to escape and jumped out the 3rd-story window. Anthony ran down after her, completely bollock naked also, to try and bring her back into the house. 2 people happened to be passing by though, and they called 911. Sean was taken to hospital. She had a ridiculous number of broken bones. She fell about 30 feet. She didn't talk to the police about it though, but someone else did, about a week later. On the 27th of October, a woman spoke of an ordeal she herself had been through with Mr. Sowell. It had happened in September. She had, like before, she went in to have a drink in his place, and he flipped into something else. She, however, was lucky enough to survive, but she didn't want to speak to anyone about what she had been through. That is, until late October. An arrest warrant and search warrant were issued for Anthony Sowell. On the 29th of October, SWAT kicked in his door. They were looking for Anthony. They found a lot more. Anthony wasn't there at the time. The stench was overpowering, though. Dead flies everywhere. Everywhere else were decomposing bodies. Some of them had been there for years. Anthony living with them. And they kept finding body after body after body. Ebola was out for Anthony. Manhunt was on. It was on the 31st of October, just as he was randomly walking down the street. Cops pull over, put cuffs on him. He had like branches and bits of dirt on him. It looked like he'd been sleeping in the bushes or something for a few days.
This got to be right. This got to be right before we.
In one way, though. This is the story of Ayla out of nowhere. He then sexually assaulted her, and after that he went through the house, locking doors and windows. He wasn't planning on letting her go.
This got to be right before we finish.
What I was going to say is, how can somebody be coming over to have some drinks and you smell all that stuff in that house? You see all them flies on the floor. You see all that mess. Would y'all go into that house to go party? Females in the chat, would y'all go into that house to party? Tell me, would you? Go get a drink, go get a beer at the corner store, and then go back to my place. Go chill. Baby, what that smell? Well, don't mind it. It's a dead cat. I found it today. It's good. I tried to put some bleach on it. It's still here. Don't worry about it. Let's have this drink.
You can't make nothing happen. That I
know what you're saying, but
see every time I get you think like I can just, and everything is so, it's not clear like that.
Why isn't it?
I don't know.
It's the most significant thing that has ever happened to you in your life. In your 50 years of living, 6 dead bodies are very, very significant. They are like concrete, like glue. They're stuck. They're not going nowhere for the rest of your life. You know they're going to be there forever.
It's hard for us to believe you don't know what happened. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what you believe. I came up here trying to help y'all.
No, you're not, but you're not.
Okay, but because I can't tell you exactly what you want to hear. Okay, well,
how do you think you can help us then?
To help you try to identify these people. That's not trying to do. That's what you say you want. So forget it.
He wasn't especially helpful during the interviews, though he said whatever he may have done, it was done when he blacked out.
You see you doing something with your hands, right?
I saw another person today use that defense. He was drinking too much and he blacked out. He shot and was just aiming to scare her, but he ended up killing her. He doesn't even remember. You sound like you have experience. Sound too believable. No experience. I just have a vivid imagination and a warped sense of humor, I guess. What does that sound? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, what you doing with your time? Having a good time. Party. I think I choked somebody. That's all I know. That's all I feel. Yes. You feel that you choked somebody, right. But you don't know how many people you choked. Well, I'll tell you what. If the dream told you to choke her and you choked her, that damn dream is over. And you start hauling that damn dirt up there, putting it on the damn body.
Police believe that they were murdered by this man, Anthony Sowells, a convicted rapist who had been living in the house. 5 of the bodies have been identified as women. Police say they were strangled.
I didn't feel safe. There's something telling me don't go in this house.
Eventually, 11 women's bodies were found in Anthony Sowell's house. All had been strangled to death, and he was charged with 11 counts of aggravated murder and 74 counts of rape, kidnapping, tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse.
We're here to announce an 85-count indictment against Anthony Sowell, who was responsible for Clevelandville's heinous crimes. A Cuyahoga County grand jury has returned an indictment against this monster for brutalizing 3 women, 2 who've been raped, and murdering 11 more. Sowell preyed upon vulnerable females, luring them into his house. Once inside, he tormented them, threatened them, and assaulted them. He murdered 11 of them.
He pleaded not guilty. good luck. More survivors would come forward and additional charges would be filed against them. That thing would begin in June 2011. The trial of the Cleveland Strangler.
I wonder how long it took them to scrub that dead body smell off of him. They said he stunk too. So can you imagine how bad he stunk for days, like in the jail? You're like, man, we got to clean you off with some bleach, something. Comment.
It would last over a month. As I said, Anthony pleaded not guilty. Well, firstly, it was not guilty by reason of insanity, and then plain old not guilty. He would, during his own testimony, blame what he had done on a heart attack he had suffered, which led him to develop voices in his head, I guess, as you do.
I'm a good chess player. I play on the internet. Well, I used to play on the internet all the time. My game, I could not win a chess game after this heart attack. I just stopped playing. I could not win a game.
How were your emotions?
Well, I was depressed. Mood swings. It was just all kind of, so I can't even explain. I was just feeling sad and lonely and stuff all the time,
Was there a point in time after the heart attack you started hearing a voice?
Yes.
Did you give that voice a name?
I didn't give it a name. I had a name.
Had it.
Yes.
What was the name?
Arnie.
Did Arnie speak to you?
Yes.
Anthony, you know why you're here, obviously.
Correct.
Is there anything you want to say to families of victims in this case?
Well, the only thing I want to say is that I'm sorry. I know that might not sound like much, but I truly am sorry from the bottom of my heart. This is not typical of me. I don't know what happened. I can't explain it.
What? Not typical of you? 11 times, bro, and that's not typical? That sounds like a pattern to me.
But I know it's not a lot, but that's all I can give you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
He told me, he said, you don't deserve what I'm about to do to you. He said, you don't deserve what I'm about to do to you. And it was all bad after that.
As you walk to the bathroom, did you notice anything about the room on the left?
It looked like it was a body, and it had no hand on it. He said, you gonna tell. He wasn't talking to me. He was just talking. You gonna tell. I know you gonna tell. At first he wasn't talking to me because you gonna tell. I know you gonna tell. And I said, tell what? I said, what is there to tell?
There was also pretty shocking testimony from surviving victims. And in the end, the verdict was, well, the obvious. Guilty, true, and true. He was sentenced to death. The House of Horrors was demolished. Nothing stands there today, and maybe nothing ever should. Well, the only thing I think that should is what does. Since about a month ago, talking autumn 2021, a memorial was unveiled, Garden of 11 Angels, remembering the 11 women that had been taken from their families. Over the years Anthony appealed, the Ohio Supreme Court given a good old womp womp for Tony each time. Until, that is, in January 2021. He began receiving treatment for a terminal illness that he had, and he died on the 8th of February. They never said what the illness was, just that it wasn't COVID related. And so ends the tale of Anthony Sowell, the infamous Cleveland Strangler. It's a story like a lot of others, you know, predator, serial killer.
Wow. Oh, Funky Drawers died in prison. I'm not trying to make light of it. I mean, but man, sometimes you have to. These things are so freaking ridiculous sometimes. It's like, how the hell could, people were saying there were smells, there was this, there was that, people escaping out of windows naked. How does that go on for so long? You're telling me if it was an affluent neighborhood, you have one person falling out a third-story window naked running through the neighborhood, that's only going to be one time. And the cops are going to be everywhere. It's sad that, there's a level of mentality for the police, and I'm not anti-police, y'all know how I feel about it, but for whatever reason, they have a code. It seems like if you're a prostitute, if you're a drug addict, if you're somebody stuck in that lifestyle, then, they're not going to go out of their way to help you because, you're just going to go right back to it. It's almost like you're wasting their time. And that needs to change, in my opinion. What do y'all think?
She remembers the details vividly. The night she says she was raped.
It changed her life, and she feels lucky to be alive. News Channel 5's Tracy Carlos spoke with a woman who claims accused serial killer Anthony Sowell attacked her. Tracy.
At first she says she didn't come forward because she thought nobody would believe her. Then she says those fears turned out to be true when she says she tried to tell authorities, but nobody would listen. Now you'll hear her story for the first time in her own words. She saw his face on television, and the image stopped her in her tracks. It transported her back decades to a fall night in East Cleveland, where the nightmare that she has been trying to forget for some 20 years all began.
Face was plastered right on. I just stopped in shock. I really was in shock. My whole body was like trembling because I was looking at the guy that I knew had raped me 20-something years ago. This man stole my life from me.
We're using her nickname, Lisa, and we're not showing you her face. She is 46 now and says accused serial killer Anthony Sowell raped her when she was just 23. The night started, she says, with the two of them having a couple of beers outside an apartment building that used to be here. It was called the Animal House by police because it was known for trouble. The two walked a short distance to this spot where a Big Boy restaurant used to be. That's where she told police she was raped.
Once I came up from using the bathroom, he was like, doctor, he was a different person. He wasn't that same person, that gentleman I had met.
She is convinced that she was going to die that night. So she says she told Sowell she would not tell a soul.
I convinced him to go back and get my clothes. I told him we could go over his house or whatever. But when he turned around to get my clothes, I jumped that fence and ran. And have on nothing but socks and shoes.
She says that night caused her to become hooked on drugs and alcohol for years. She moved to South Carolina, and now she says she's been drug-free for 6 years. She says she has turned her life around. A few weeks ago, she walked into the East Cleveland Police Department and filed a police report about the rape, and now finally has some closure. The rest could come in a Cuyahoga County courtroom.
Justice will be served one way or the other because God is the one that's going to punish him.
Now, we don't know if these latest allegations against Sowell will play a role in his upcoming trial. In the newsroom, Tracy Carlos, News Channel 5.
And continue.
What do y'all think about that? I mean, 20 years ago, this woman sees this guy who raped her on the TV. And then she finally has the strength. What is a Big Boy's restaurant? Second job ever was even in their commercial. That's awesome, Leslie. What is a Big Boys? Is that like a hamburger place? JB Big Boys. Now let's listen to his trial. I know Leslie's famous. She knows a lot of upper level people, been in commercials. I feel honored. Here we go.
Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. We're back on the record in case 530-885, State of Ohio versus Mr. Sowell. We have Mr. Sowell on the stand at this time, ladies and gentlemen. He is going to give what is called an unsworn statement. It is his right to do so in this type of proceeding. The procedure will be that Mr. Parker will be asking him questions as part of, so be like the direct examination that you've seen throughout the trial. Only there will be no cross-examination. I do have to remind those of you in the back of the room that any outbursts, any demonstrations will result in immediate expulsion from the court. So at this time, Mr. Parker, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Anthony.
Good afternoon.
I need you to keep your voice up so all the jurors can hear you. Let's just start by having you give the jury your full name.
Anthony Edward Sowell,
And what's your birthday, Anthony?
August 19, 1959.
And how old are you right now?
51.
Are you divorced?
I'm divorced.
And I believe you've had one child with Clyde.
Yes.
I want to talk to you at first, or ask you some questions at first about your childhood. There was a time where you lived on East 88th Street, is that right?
Correct.
You also lived on Central for a short time.
Correct.
And there was a time when you lived on Parkview.
Yes.
And I want to ask you questions initially about when you lived on Parkview. Do you remember a person by the name of Princess?
Yes, I do.
Did Princess have a brother?
Shorty.
His name was Shorty.
Oh, well, I don't know his name, but that's what we call him, Shorty.
And when you lived on Parkview, you know approximately how old? What range?
I had just finished the first grade when we moved, I think, so 6, 7, or 8 right in here.
Okay. And did something happen with Princess?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury about that?
She sexually abused me.
Did this happen one time?
Many.
Many times. And you give the jury the details?
No, I'm gonna talk about that.
That's when you were living on Parkview.
Yes, sir.
Now, there was a time when you lived with Robin and Monica before Parkview.
Yes.
Was there something that you saw happen between Robin and Monica?
He took her in the closet, and he was like having us. There's a lot of sexual activity going on over there. This was happening at my sister's house.
Patricia's house?
Yes, sir. And he basically, being the oldest, he was like directing everybody into what, really what to do. But I remember him taking Monica, which I call my older sister, into the closet. Yes.
That is terrible. I mean, nobody deserved to be abused or hurt in any way like that. But at a particular point, you have to be self-aware enough to ask for help, especially if you have any kind of tendency that leads you to hurt another human being.
You don't know what happened exactly?
No.
And how old would you have been around this time?
Probably it was definitely under 5.
And was there a time when...
Well, 5 or 6, I take it back.
Okay. Was there a time when you remember something happening between you and Ron?
I don't remember what it was exactly, but he was messing with me. I know I bit him.
You bit him?
Yeah, I never did that before, but I bit him. He got that charged up for messing with me. I don't know what happened over.
Where did you bite him? What part of his body?
On his arm somewhere. Probably right above his wrist.
Bite him hard?
Oh, yeah.
I want to move on to when you and your family moved to East Cleveland.
Okay.
When you moved to the house on Page in East Cleveland, do you remember what grade you were in?
6.
And was there any difference between the East Cleveland school system and the Cleveland school system that you came out of?
Big difference.
What was the difference?
East Cleveland School was much better.
Give us an example.
Well, they had carpet on the, in the classrooms on the floor. Each classroom had their own projector, overhead projector, film projector. It was just, the classes was much better. We had to, as soon as I got there, I was had to pick out an instrument I had to play. And
did you play a musical instrument?
Yes, sir.
What did you play?
Cello.
And at the end of the 6th grade, did you have a program or concert?
Yes, we had to learn 2 songs, I think. We gave a concert for the parent teachers and parents.
Do you remember what song you played on your cello?
Just, I remember one, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
Did you enjoy learning that music?
Oh, yes, I love music.
And you had a teacher named Mr. Seidman, is that right?
Correct, science teacher.
That was a little later on, right?
Yes.
Did you enjoy Mr. Seidman's class?
Yes.
Did you participate when he taught the kids how to play cello?
Yes.
Is that where you learned how to play?
Yes, sir.
Is that something you've done throughout your whole life after?
Yes, sir, I became quite good.
Now, I want to talk about your home life on Page Avenue as a child. You obviously know Ramona and Leona, correct?
Correct.
You saw their testimony over the last week or so. Did you know about those meetings that they saw?
Of course.
Did you witness it?
Yes.
Were you ever whooped or beaten yourself?
Of course.
Can you explain that?
You know what they say, hurt people, right? Damn, I keep rewinding it.
I just want to escape.
How did you escape?
I joined the Marines.
Did your mother want you to join them?
She didn't, she argued against it, but she ended up signing the papers. Because it was going to happen anyway. I was going to turn 18 in August that year. I finished school when I was 17, so I was going to, I enlisted in the Marines. I started off early that year. Actually signed up with the Army. I was enlisted with the Army at first. Early that year, around February or March, I started. After the recruiter came to school, and then I got him, called him, and he came out and started talking to me and talking to my parents. And I initially took my interest test with the United States Army.
Why didn't you join the Army?
Because I heard the Marines were tough.
Why did you want to go to the top?
Because I had a point to prove that I can do it, that I can, that I was constantly called, put down.
And you know, in another video, another live that I've done, I did the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath. I gave you examples of the two. And as you heard of sociopaths, you know, they are very, very methodical and they're very driven, but they have that sense of antisocial personality. You know, they're not very forthcoming. They're hard to read. They're usually in high positions. And this guy, I don't know if he did or not, Leslie. I haven't heard that he did. But as he was just telling you, he wanted to go to flight school. So he had high ambitions. It's interesting how, as you've heard me read Dr. Bricato's book, The New Evil, as well, it's interesting how these individuals are high functioning, but they also have that level of uncontrolled psychopathy but beneath the surface. And I don't know if I said that right, but I got to get started on reading that book again because I'm losing the general gist of it. Sporadic. Yeah, I bet he was a sporadic spree killer because it seemed like he didn't take any time off. It seemed like he was, just killing one right after the other. They didn't mention that he took some time off.
And stuff, so
Were you picked on in school?
sometimes.
Why would kids pick on you?
Because I was quiet and, all to myself sometimes. I just wasn't used to really associate with a lot of other kids and stuff. So,
Were you allowed to have friends when you were growing up?
well, when we got to East Cleveland, yes.
Okay. Before East Cleveland?
No.
So you joined the Marines to prove a point?
Yes.
Who were you going to prove?
My mother.
So you in fact joined the Marines?
Yes.
And you did very well in boot camp, right?
Yes.
You got the honor Mr. Vanston talked about, is that right?
Yes.
You met a woman that became very special to you in the Marine Corps?
My wife.
Your wife?
Yes.
What's your wife's name?
Kim Yvette Lawson.
Where did you meet Kim?
Up in Japan.
When you were serving the Marines?
Yes, sir.
Was she a Marine also?
Yes, sir, she was.
So you met Kim in Japan and you ended up marrying her, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Where did you two get married?
North Carolina, New Bern, North Carolina.
And you loved her, didn't you?
Of course. Still do.
Still do.
Yes.
How would you describe your relationship with your wife?
It was good.
Good?
It was good. It's the best time I had in my life.
Did she help you with some things?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
What kind of things did she help
Mm. Well, she understood me better or can handle me better than anybody I've ever seen. I don't know. We just had that connection. Well, I had already talked about my childhood with not abuse and stuff, but a lot of things. I just let her know I had come up with a bad child. I had a bad childhood. And after we got married,
I'm not trying to sound callous when I say this, but anybody born in the 70s and 80s or grew up during those times, it was a different time. There was no such thing as child abuse. There was no such thing as, this is perfect parenting. There was none of this, we're going to come and take your child. There's none of this. So, I mean, can y'all still hear me? But I don't agree when people start using their childhoods as an excuse. I have very limited internet right now, so hopefully you can still hear me. I don't agree with that at all. Because, there's a lot of people that had bad childhoods and they grew up to be awesome people. They grew up to be, individuals that didn't hurt others. They grew up to be individuals that became helpers in the community, became, very pro-social individuals. Yeah, at a certain age, you got to stop blaming parents for your life. Exactly. I mean, I understand that hurt people, but also that doesn't excuse the fact when you get caught, you can scream foul. I'm going to go ahead and turn this one off because I don't know if I'm going to get booted, but I'm going to show you one more before I call it a night. I thank you guys for being very interactive in the chat tonight. Yeah, you have to be accountable for your own actions. I always enjoy you guys, being proactive in the chat. It's awesome. And it's very well received on this end. Thank you so much.
Look at the Garden of 11 Angels on Imperial Avenue. All the lights on tonight on the 12th anniversary of the discovery of 11 women killed by Cleveland serial killer Anthony Sowell. What was once a house of horrors, tonight, a beautiful memorial garden. So after a long 12 years of waiting for that memorial, families of the victims say they finally have some closure. Our Lydia Sparrow was there and has the story.
In October of 2009, this house on Imperial Avenue was discovered to be a death trap for 11 women. Anthony Sowell lured all of them to his home, then murdered them. The house was demolished in 2011. He was sentenced that same year, yet nothing was done with the lots that served as a graveyard for the victims.
When your friends turn away and you're all alone.
Until now.
All alone.
Finally, a garden of 11 angels is revealed. Yvonne Porner was there. She knows they're suffering too.
Like a bad dream that you cannot wake up from.
Her 14-year-old daughter was murdered in Cleveland more than 30 years ago.
Takes a lifetime of overcoming. Just when I think I got it together.
Then one by one.
Just to know she was laying right there. Right there. All that whole year, I put up posts and my daughter was laying in that mud over there.
She was a good sister, and I just, I loved her. Just want y'all to know that.
The families of the victims spoke.
My daughter, Crystal Dozer, the very first one Anthony Sowell killed, and she was buried back there by the fence.
They cut the ribbon, and then you see the memorial.
Today was more than just special. It was a closure.
A memorial funded by the Western Reserve Land Conservancy.
We're all humans, and they need that proper level of respect and love.
And with love, they cry, they touch, and pray for brighter days ahead after 12 years of darkness on Imperial Avenue.
And it seems like you can't make it through. Well, you stand when there's nothing left to do. You just stand.
Lydia Sparrow, 3 News.
It's always beautiful when something rises from the ashes, That is a beautiful memorial, a garden. And so many people have so much negative whenever people try to do something good or just have something to say. They feel like they have the right to talk down on other people and stuff. When they're trying to be pro-social, when they're trying to do something good for the victims of violent crimes, it's terrible. It's terrible that these individuals will never see their loved ones again and that they lost their lives trusting this individual. Just going to have a beer with them. Just going to hang out. How many of you in the chat have ever just met somebody that you hit it off with? Say, hey, let's go get a couple beers. Let's go hang out. Did you honestly think you'd never make it back? Well, these women, obviously, they didn't fear that they'd never make it back. I can't imagine being that powerless over an individual that you're fighting for your life. You're getting hit, you're getting raped, you're getting hurt. And this individual just doesn't care. And that is the sadness of these cases that I cover on this channel. You know, to deprive an individual of any right to say no, to move on and want to leave you behind without you stalking, without you harassing, without you killing. Because that's the only way that you feel that you will get any kind of equality in that situation. You know, it's sad. It is so sad. And I wish more creators would honestly do more true crime like this, because it needs to be aware. There's so many stories of individuals trying to raise their children, working jobs, meeting men, hoping that this would be a good guy. And this guy turns out to be a monster and takes them away from their children. This guy, he died in prison. Well, I'm glad he got the death penalty, but they never got to carry that out, you know? I really wish true crime on these YouTube streets was a lot more like this. I really do. Instead of getting all up in arms about what you feel that you need to change or whatever other people do, that's their business. But you know, we could have so much more awareness in these stories. You know, having the victim families on our panels. I try every day to try to get in touch with families, to invite them up on my panel so that we can discuss some of their pain or their healing. Because it's not always about the pain, it's sometimes about the healing. How to overcome the obstacles to teach other people how to heal from these heinous crimes. Because you just can't turn it off, like that lady said at the end. It's like a bad dream you can't wake up from. But yet we have people in these chats that just make fun of the victims, and they rise. These kind of killers, they lift them up like an idol, because everybody deserves to be innocent until proven guilty. Now you tell me, you heard the story. Do you believe honestly he was innocent until proven guilty? Or did you automatically say, you know what, they need to fry him? You know? They need to fry him. And that's what I hope that you understand through my channel. I'm not trying to make a difference on YouTube because I know I can't. There's too many people on that other end. And I'm not even trying to call people out anymore. I was in the beginning, but it's futile. I'm just going to stay over here in my little neck of YouTube and do what I do. And if I can reach one person, that's one person that I can hold my head up high and say, you know what, that person got something out of my life. You know? And that's understandable, Lovetina. That's really understandable. We don't all have to feel the same about, you know, certain things, and that's understandable. There's a lot of people that aren't pro death penalty, and that's understandable, you know. But at a particular point, we have to stop taking up for the people that hurt people and spitting on the ground of the victims that are left with their families left behind. Like I always say, You won't know how it feels until you have it happen to you. You know, I had an uncle murdered when I was 18 years old. And I don't know if unconsciously that pushed me into the direction that I took in life. Um, but I loved this man. He was kind. He had an addiction problem, obviously, but he didn't deserve to die how he died, you know? And when I hear some of these stories, I can't imagine if people would have turned on his story and just focused on his addiction or his poor choices in life or his poor choices in relationships or even making up things that weren't true about him or his or our family. I can't imagine. You know, it's terrible that people can do that and laugh about it all day long. Call people names, disrespect them with their chats and all this other stuff. And I haven't been immune from it. You know, I've done that in the beginning because I thought that's what you needed to do on YouTube to get your point across. But you don't. And I've learned that, you know what? You can get more bees with honey than you can with vinegar. And I'm going to continue doing my channel. And I have another channel that hopefully once it warms up, I'm going to start, you know, posting some adventures over there. But I don't know. I wasn't trying to get on my soapbox, but this one really moves me for some reason. I guess because he was right there in the open. And nobody took the time to investigate these women's stories. One of them even got arrested with him, trying to get away from him. It's just so tragic. Some of these stories, you're just like, I don't know how I understand you'd be mad with the police, but be mad at the individual who's killing them. You don't have to know whether they're innocent or guilty. That's not our job. That's the jury's job to decide. And it doesn't matter what we think on the sidelines. When the trials are over of all these people, a jury decides their guilt or innocence. And, you know, we can ask questions. I'm not all about not asking questions, but, you know, there's a difference in asking questions to learn and a question to just be an asshole, you know? You know, I hate to say it like that, but, you know, there's a difference. Yeah. You know, having a loved one get killed is very tragic. And you never forget it. I hope you guys hold your loved ones tight. Keep yourself safe. And always be mindful of your surroundings. Because what else can we do, right? And that is a strong statement right there, Michelle. Thank you so much for saying that. It's like we forgot that these people were human beings and deserve to be investigated. That is a strong, strong statement. Latina, I'm glad that you decided to come back to the chat. You were missed, you know. I know your stance on that one case, and I respect it. You know, I do respect it. And I know in the beginning I was kind of harsh about it. But I hope you know I never meant you any disrespect or anybody in the chat. I just thought that everybody ran their channels like that. And I should have known better. Instead of being a follower, I needed to be a leader. You know? So I hope you take my apology. But the rest of you, I hope you enjoyed that. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. If you watch this on replay, I hope that you understand that these shows are not for the murderer, but more for the victims. You know? They're more for the memories of the victims who no longer have a voice. We understand this guy's a monster. Why he did it, we don't need to know. We need to keep these memories of these victims alive with a positive ending rather than what this guy did to them. You're right. Well, you guys, I will see you soon. I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to play some music, and then we're going to get out of here. I'll give you guys a chance to chat a little bit. Let me see if I can find something that's kind of keep the mood going. Y'all go ahead and chat a little bit.